We'll start off on the optics front on the protests. Obviously, protests have been happening all around the country. There's a lot of back and forth in terms of like what the best possible way to protest is and yada, 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 and what the bad parts of protesting look like or what bad kinds of protests look like. I am in favor of protests and demonstrations regardless. You guys, as you probably know, I don't mind if it's like a libbed up protest. At the end of the day, I still think it's good. Here, this is a very short piece about MLK and what he was doing and what he was utilizing in terms of like optics. It's an attitude that I never really considered as well.
Favorite tools to use was violence, right? Like he never once led a nonviolent protest. People getting beat within an inch of their life for ordering food is violent, right? But he was a mastermind at manipulating the visual violence. He understood that watching black people get beat up on live television is not an effective strategy at making racist people any less racist. But you, as a black person, having to watch your defenseless mother and aunties get hosed down is actually an extremely effective tactic at enraging both you and your local community to violence, right? There's a reason why after every major MLK city and peaceful protest got televised, there would be widespread violent uprisings, both large and small, all around the country. And this threat of widespread violence is what caused change. And there has been a lot of historical propaganda that goes into portraying the civil rights era as being the product of white empathy and not fear, the dominant group in America.
Yeah, it wasn't. Those protests and like black people getting their asses beat at the civil rights sit-ins and whatnot that were inherently non-violent on the protester side, but there was tremendous violence against them on the police side. The violence in that regard and the imagery in that regard was not for white people to feel sympathetic to black people. They didn't give a shit at all, which of course, as you guys know, MLK also openly talked about. In terms of like white empathy and how white moderates were a significant hurdle to developing a coherent, successful civil rights struggle that had some kind of motion. Yeah, white moderates were like, no, we're not on board with that at all. Now, of course, also MLK does not work single-handedly with like on his own. Without Malcolm X, without the Black Panther movement, right? Without the Black Panther Party. And those guys were definitely not nonviolent. They understood that there was a necessity in certain instances for a little bit of militancy, recognizing perfectly that no matter how much militancy they applied, it would never reach the standard of the state. Which is true. What they did, even if they were to get into like shootouts every now and then or engage in the act of self-defense against the state that was like brutalizing black people, ultimately none of that would reach the standard of systematized violence that the state was enacting with regular frequency under the auspices of lawfare. State has obviously a monopoly on violence. Point is, it wasn't about garnering attention from and sympathy from white people, even though that is how people talk about it. Like that's literally like the most famous way of approaching it, which is to whitewash the things that took place during the civil rights struggle and then making it seem as though it was like white people's sympathies that finally gave black people some legal parity. That wasn't the case, obviously, and this perfectly demonstrates that too.
We're never overwhelmingly in favor of any of MLK's protest tactics, right? He forced their hand. You can either accept the nonviolent terms I'm offering, or you're going to be forced into a violent reality. It's not an appeal to empathy; it's extortion. And I think particularly towards the back end of his life, he started to make certain realizations, right? That you cannot argue with somebody in a language they do not speak. You wouldn't argue to an Italian man in French. You wouldn't speak to a German man in Spanish. So why are you trying to speak to a country that was built on the back of slavery and violent revolutions with peace, right? And I mean, we kind of seen how that ended, right? I don't know, y'all. I just think if your oppressor agrees with your method of protesting, you're not protesting, you're loitering.
This is why I always say, like, there's a place for everyone in this, okay? Like even the liberals, the Barbers and the Deborahs coming out and showcasing their discontent with the current administration. That's good. That's good. Okay. So you won't see me shitting on those guys. Like I'll make some jokes every now and then, but obviously like I'm in favor of that. I'm in support of that. I've talked about how I'm in support of all of that. But also You won't see me poo-pooing other methods of protesting and trying to dismantle or dismantle certain pieces of the state, or maybe become undeniable, become a real nuisance, muck up the works, gum up the works to the best of your ability. Like these are things that people have done throughout history, throughout successful protest movements, throughout successful revolutionary movements. You can play a role in this. Just don't stand in opposition towards people that have similar goals that you have, right? Did the lib lay down and take it when the police charged them? Not the ones that were around. By the time I got there, they were eating it. But there's not really much you can do other than eat it when you're in that situation, because the cops are just like indiscriminately firing directly into the crowd, aiming at heads in that crowd. So it doesn't even matter. Peaceful protesting is good for getting attention for stuff, but it doesn't enact actual change. Historically, it doesn't work like that. And the other methods feel impossible now because the state is militarized rapidly against us. It's never impossible. You got a lot of numbers, dude. That's all I'm saying. Danny Danon, everyone's favorite anti-child drawing UN ambassador to Israel. He said, I am appalled by the outrageous and anti-Semitic incident that at the International Arms Exhibition in Paris, where the booth of Israeli companies were concealed behind black walls. This discriminatory act singled out against Israel, while representatives of other countries were freely allowed to showcase their technological innovation. Yes, he does have a lisp, by the way, for the record. For the real knowers, for the real Danny Danon heads out there, okay? This is as close as you can get to his accent. I'm not even, bro, admit you practice that in the shower. Israel stands at the forefront of global technology, and it is clear that some nations feel threatened by our exceptional capabilities. This is especially absurd considering that Israel's actions are aimed at protecting the free world, including France and Europe, from Iranian terror. Instead of isolating Israel, the world should stand with us and learn from our knowledge and capabilities. Yes, you guessed it. Danny Danon said, stop being anti-Semitic to Israeli arms manufacturers. Once again, another moment. Oh, sorry. His name wasn't Al Turki. You'll get a totally different. Is Turki Al Jasser. Sorry. It is something that I have said as a joke before, is like, wow, you're being quite anti-Semitic to Israeli weapons manufacturers. Like, wow, attacking Elbit systems. When will the anti-Semitism stop? Is something that I have joked about. And now we have officially moved on from this being a joke to this being a sincere position of the Israeli government. There it is. Israel's UN ambassador is tweeting it out sincerely. What the is happening? This is incredible. Tell me I was off with my accent.
Of the United Nations, where thousands of people are passing every day, the UN decided to put an exhibition about world peace. Look at the drawings of children from all around the world.
Look at the drawings of children from all around the world.
Nothing about Israel. Nothing about our hostages.
Not one. I'm Israel. Hi. Not one. Not even one child. These are drawings of terror. These are terror children. This is not a parody. This is the real, bro. This is a real art installation of children that the United Nations put up at their headquarters. Okay? It was a world peace art installation of children drawing stuff on a quilt. Danny Danon literally went there, cut this video, and actually successfully got the United Nations to take this art installation down.
Look what they have. They don't recognize Israel. They promote hate in those drawings.
This is my favorite. This is my favorite when it pans over and it just says, teach peace. Peace begins with a smile. It's all when he goes, they are teaching hate to these Hamas children, terror babies doing drawings. And he points to it and the camera pans to peace. Everyone knows peace is terror. How much did Hamas pay for these terror children to draw the terrorist quilt drawings? Not one drawing for Israel.
That is shameful. This is part of the hypocrisy of the United Nations. I demand that the UN will remove this exhibit immediately and will stop with the hypocrisy against Israel.
They did. They literally did. He got them to take it down. I cannot believe that this was a real thing that happened. Oh my God. I will never be able to take a person like this seriously for the rest of my life, okay?